And these are my picks for the top 24 rock and alternative albums of 2024. Ohio Players from the Black Keys confidently opens with the track This Is Nowhere. Beautiful People is nominated for 2 Grammys. They just dropped a video for Sin City. Read 'Em and Weep has a really cool gothic western vibe to it. The album's second single was a cover of the William Bell classic I Forgot to Be Your Lover. The trophy edition of the album adds several extra tracks, including a collaboration with Alice Cooper that really honestly really rocks. I'm not sure this is their best album, but I've yet to hear a bad Black Keys album. 2-star in the Dream Police from Mk.gee. This guy is one of Eric Clapton's favorite new guitarists. And in Clapton's words, he has found things to do on the guitar that are like nobody else. So the first time I heard Mk.gee, I'm like, what? What? I didn't realize at first he tunes his guitar to be like a baritone guitar. It's part of what makes this album really hard to describe. It's lo-fi, it's alternative, it's pop, it's R&B, it's smooth. This album is simultaneously very easy to listen to and very challenging to listen to at the same time. It's almost like yacht rock from the future. Every song sounds like something you've heard before, but like nothing you've heard before. Check out Rylee and I. It's a great song. Alesis is a track he did on Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago. He also just issued a standalone single called Rockman, which is a good song. I've been into these guys since the first time I heard Time to Pretend and Kids. Oracular Spectacular, something like that was the name of that album, their major label debut from MGMT. And then 2 or 3 years later, they dropped another album that was like straight up 60s psychedelic rock. And I'm like, what in the actual? But over time, I've come to understand that MGMT does their own thing. And in 2024, they dropped a nearly perfect alternative pop album. Mother Nature is a great song. Nothing to Declare is a great song. People in the Streets is a great song. This is more of a return to form for Manson after the Shooter Jennings produced We Are Chaos in 2020, which in my opinion is a superior album to this one. In spite of some fairly average moments, this album has several standout tracks. As Sick as the Secrets Within, Sacrilegious. If you're a Marilyn Manson fan and you can't find something to like here, you might want to ask yourself if you're really that miserable, or if maybe you're just kind of bummed. This album is intense and melodic, anthemic, and pretty hard rockin' here and there. This band, in a weird way, reminds me of 80s new wave band The Fix. They don't necessarily sound like The Fix, but you know how The Fix kind of bridged that gap between what was clearly new wave and fairly straight-ahead rock? Theater is what Foo Fighters would sound like if Foo Fighters sounded like Doves. Playing with Fire is a great song. Hey You is really good. The Knock, it's a double album. So, it's been 50 years since Rock-a-Rolla. And Judas Priest drops their best album, possibly of the 21st century. Rob Halford can still do Rob Halford things. Personally, I think Crown of Thorns is a great song. Panic Attack is just as blistering as Screaming for Vengeance. This is definitely one of the best metal albums of 2024, for sure. This Canadian duo's final album gets right to the point. It's garage rock, it's indie rock, it's power pop. Everything's energetic, anthemic, just like it should be. Chicago feels a bit more mature than much of the album. It's my favorite track off the album. It's a great song. All Bets Are Off is a great closer. See you later, Japan Droids. Pearl Jam's 12th studio album has picked up Grammy nominations for Best Rock Album, Best Rock Song, and Best Rock Performance. The title track left some people scratching their heads, but honestly, I liked it a lot. I like it when Pearl Jam mixes things up a little bit, makes Pearl Jam continue to be relevant and interesting. Also, Wreckage is a great song from this album. It's sort of a classic Pearl Jam mid-tempo, mostly acoustic number. Waiting for Stevie is an instant classic. For me, Pearl Jam rarely disappoints. You know what's great? Albums that are short. And Strange Burden is 28 minutes of perfection from criminally underappreciated Austin, Texas band Font. This album's songs have genre-busting structures, mid-song tempo changes, This band is at times post-punk, industrial, dance punk, kind of like Talking Heads, LCD Sound System, Arcade Fire, and then the next thing you know, it's classic King Crimson Red or In the Court of the Crimson King. And the lyrics are kind of out there in places too. Pay attention for jewels like, your father eating peach pits like they were smaller peaches. He's never seen the snow, and I don't think he knows what teal is. On the band's 8th album, many people were surprised to hear a record of nothing but standards from the 1940s from Glenn Miller and Tommy Dorsey. I can't do it. If you're a Jesus and Mary Chain fan and you've never listened to this, be prepared to get exactly what you expect, but a good version of everything you expect. You got your fuzzy guitars, you got your ever-present but not overwhelming synthesizers, you got your ample moments of pure noise pop. The Eagles and the Beatles, that's the name of a song, it requires a certain perspective that comes with age. Chemical Animal is a standout track. Glad these guys are still around. Funeral for Justice by Mdu Mokhtar. This album just sounds big and full and busy, but it's easy to listen to at the same time, start to finish. And the lyrics are all in the Temeshek language, which is slowly dying out in Mokhtar's home country, Niger. This is a psychedelic rock record that brings a strong garage rock vibe, and these guys can clearly play. A lot of the guitar work here is amazing. Whew, they did it. I was really worried this album was gonna suck. Okay, nothing will ever live up to Hybrid Theory or Meteora or 1,000 Suns, one of my personal favorite Linkin Park records. But From Zero is a strong reset with newly added vocalist Emily Armstrong. Heavy as the Crown is just an absolute banger. Sonically, this is a pretty easy to digest Green Day album. Safe to say there will never be another Kerplunk. They are, hate to say it to all the punk purists, but Green Day is pretty much a classic rock band at this point. And a pretty good one, really. But who would you rather have be a classic rock band at this point? Saviors is full of great hooks. You can easily sing along or scream along to parts of The American Dream is Killing Me, Bobby Socks. If you're a dad, father to a son really resonates. I don't know how many people outside of Scotland are familiar with Arab Strap. They were a thing and then they weren't, and they've been back together this is their second album since getting back together. There's more stuff to talk about. Let's just say Marilyn Manson could learn a thing or two about how to be disappointed in human beings. I'm totally fine with it, don't give a f anymore. Features songs about social media addiction, porn addiction, conspiracy theorists, smartphone dependency, and there's even a song based on a true story about a British woman who died home alone during the pandemic and wasn't discovered for 2 years. The album has post-punk vibes, synth-pop vibes, gothic folk vibes. It's not exactly what you call a good time. It is dark, 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 and a very compelling listen. So if you think you might like Arab Strap, that kind of sounds like your cup of tea, but you'd like something that's a little more narrative, less editorial, definitely has a lighter vibe, I'm still not sure exactly how to classify Amigo the Devil. The closest thing I can get is acid folk. But at the end of the day, more importantly, Amigo the Devil is really a storyteller. Okay, for example, the track I'm Going to Heaven. It's a song about a man who goes to heaven so he can take revenge on his dead wife's dead killer. I didn't want to like this album as much as I do, but Waiting and Wanting and Cross Your Fingers are so damn good. Rats and Clowns is a banger too. This album does lose a little bit of steam in its back half, but it's still a solid collection of songs from a band that a lot of people probably thought was long past such a thing, myself definitely included. And what do you know? Every Frank Turner album has at least one song that I honestly could do without. And generally they're the songs that tend to be more up-tempo, a little bit more punk vibes to them. But there are always several songs that resonate with me. On FTHC, it was A Wave Across a Bay. About everything on Be More Kind. This album is loaded with solid material. Tracks like No Thank You for the Music and Letters and International Hide and Seek Champion. And this album's highlight for me is the conversation with his younger self mid-tempo track, Ceasefire. Frank Turner's a great songwriter. Rockmaker is, if not their best album, easily their most creative and interesting album. You might not be convinced of that. upon first listen to The Doomsday Bells, the album's opening track, whose super repetitive hook, ring-ding, ring-a-ding-ding-dong, goes on a bit longer than it should. But hang on, Teutonic Wine is coming up, the Summer of Hate. I'd like to help you with your problems. Slash plays guitar on that. I Will Never Stop Loving You. Debbie Harry is on that. It's the album closer. It's great. The Cross is super fuzzy. It is a solid and very interesting listen from start to finish. So Ian Gillan is almost 80. Almost 80. But he still sounds like Ian Gillan. So that's one reason that these guys refuse to go gentle into that long, dark night. Former touring guitarist Simon McBride's now official upgrade to actual member. That's another reason. He can riff, by the way. Don Airey's keyboards, he can riff, by the way, are a couple more. A lot of people made the mistake of saying these guys were washed back in the late 70s, early 80s. And then just a shade over 40 years ago, Perfect Strangers dropped, and they were back on the map. Equals One is not quite a No Skips album, but tracks like Lazy Sod and No Money to Burn and Pictures of You and Portable Door, I still really have no idea what a portable door is. If you know what that song is about, please drop a comment. But the tracks that really work on this album work really, really well. And they go a long way towards guaranteeing that I will always have a special place in my rock and roll heart for those 70s bands that really pioneered heavy rock music. So figuring out which of these next 5 albums was the best was really hard. In my opinion, depending on what mood I was in or maybe how I flipped a coin, the number 5 album, at one point this year, I thought the number 5 album was going to be my number 1. Things change over the course of a year. This album dropped digitally in August and then not on physical media until November. What a Smashing Pumpkins thing to do, right? This is pretty much a straightforward rock record, you know, in that Smashing Pumpkins sense of being a straightforward rock record, meaning there's noticeable amounts of prog, metal, and alternative rock. It's less ambitious than the 3-album Autumn trilogy that preceded it. Agori Mori May is a strong, very focused album that, at the very least, invokes the spirit of Siamese Dream. It just might be the best 44 consecutive minutes this band has put together in the 21st century. And since we're on the subject of the best 44 consecutive minutes that have been put together in quite a while, this surprise release that only dropped initially in Detroit, London, and Nashville is a solid listen from start to finish. Doing that garage rock, punk blues thing only Jack White has down to perfection, guitar-heavy album, is nominated for Best Rock Album at the upcoming 67th Annual Grammy Awards. Okay, so I wonder if Gilmour proclaiming this his best work since Dark Side of the Moon set me up for unrealistic expectations of what this album would deliver. And yet, it's number 3 on my damn list, huh? The title track kind of does sound a little bit like Pink Floyd. Dark and Velvet Nights, The Piper's Call, Scattered does feel a bit like a Pink Floyd closer in a way. I do recommend checking out the deluxe version of this album. It adds a previously a couple of unreleased tracks, including Yes, I Have Ghosts, which a lot of people might have missed. It was part of an audiobook a couple of years ago. A little less post-punk, a little more alt-rock, Brit-pop, goth overtones, to wit, the title track, which evokes a sort of Marilyn Manson meets Bauhaus demo vibe. Hoarseness is the Wadness, is gorgeous. Death Kink is pure darkness. That hook in Here's the Thing is impossible to get out of your head once it's in there. I don't really see Taylor Swift doing a cover of Starburster anytime soon. And I should also mention that this album contains one of the best jangle pop songs I've heard in a long time, the closing track, Favorite. This band continues to make all the right moves as it matures. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, I do have to ask myself, do I really believe this is that great? Or do I just believe that because I waited 16 years for it? It's actually really, really good. That being said, if you were hoping for an album full of Cure bangers like Mint Car, you are certain to be disappointed in the abject melancholy presented in these 8 late career gems. Now, that's not to say that every song on the album lacks energy or power. I'm looking at you, Drone No Drone. But the overall grandeur of this album lies in the songwriting and the sonically expansive mix. More than one track features a multi-minute introduction, and there's not a damn thing wrong with that. Smith says that pretty much all of the material on Songs of a Lost World is about the finite nature of a human being's existence. The sudden passing of his brother, I Can Never Say Goodbye, for example. This album supposedly has been essentially finished for 5 years. Supposedly, another Cure album is in the can, as they say. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 5 years for Robert Smith to deem that album ready to share. Drop your thoughts, comments, your "Are you out of your flippin' minds?" in the comments section below. Like, subscribe, super thanks! Watch either of these videos. And since my wife is the only person still watching at this point of the video, thanks for loving me, Doc.